Assalamualaikum to Sir Nazri. My name is Alaiman bin Alamin and my matrix number is 053478 and I'm from TESOL 3A. So for the video documentary, I'm going to interview a teacher from SK Teluk Ketapang. So before we go into the interview, can I know some of your background, teacher? Such as your name, what subject are you teaching, and how long have you been a teacher?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. My name is Abang Adi Faizul Husni bin Abang Ali. I'm teaching English for primary school, and I have been teaching for 8 years since 2012. And now I'm in my third school of 8 years teaching.
Okay, teacher. So how you find teaching as your profession?
So how I find in this teaching as my profession? Personally, I really love teaching because it really inspires me and it motivated me more when the students, they able to use the language and they know how to use the language and they enjoy learning English, which is most of the time is alien for them. So when this happened, and it has happened in these 8 years, so I find teaching is very satisfying when something that you do, you can see the outcome, the result, and it's a positive one. So that's how I view my profession as a teacher.
So, teacher, based on your teaching experience, how do you get to motivate new teachers?
Based on my experience of teaching, it's not that long. It's only been 8 years, but what can I see or what can I advise to new teacher is that first of all, love your profession. If you didn't love your profession of teaching, everything will go haywire. Seriously, I tell you that. So first of all, love your teaching profession. Number two, don't expect your student to be what you want to be. So you have to put a very you have to be ready for any kind of students that is coming, any kind of difference. So there might be students that very love English, or there might be students that they have very high effective filter of learning English. And number three is that always find a way that can make your student love the subject. For me, English is something that you can do it in a very fun way. So don't focus or don't put I mean like don't limit your creativity on just chalk and talk or textbook. You can go more, you can go out of that, you can go out of the textbook, you can go out of the classroom normal norm. So try to find something that your students love. Sometimes learning is not very formal. There might be times you will just do simple activity, but the student will learn. I mean, like sometimes you just do cut and paste activity, or you will do project with them. But those are the things that will somehow or indirectly gain their interest, and they will learn something from it. So I think that's all that I can say or give as an advice. That's all.
Okay, teacher, so we shall proceed with the interview now. So, my first question is, who do you think is the most unique student that you had?
Unique students. Okay, I have this one girl. I was teaching her when she was in primary 3 and now she's in form 1. This girl, she loves to read, but not reading ordinary books, but she loves to read comics. She can draw very well, so every time after she reads a comic book, she will come out with her own comic books, and most of the time she will use whatever language that she picked inside the comics to add up in her own comic book. So she will constantly drawing and doing comic books, and I love to read her comics book because she will bring it to school and she will show it to her friend, and she's a very shy girl, but then I will ask her if there's any new comic books and she will let me to read it, and that's how she learned English. She read English comics books or comic strips in the internet, and she will do her own comic books.
Okay, next, my second question is, what is the characteristic of the student that you think she is unique?
Okay, what I think most unique characteristic, the characteristic of this girl is that she loves to read English comics. Not every student in year 3 loves to read English comics. They might love to read Malay comics, but not English. But this girl, she loves to learn English, and she loves English so much, and she loves drawing as well. So she's looking for a way that can cater all her interests. So she chose reading comic books and then make her own comic book. That I think is the most unique about this girl, because she can use her imagination and relate to what she had read and produce or come up with her own comics. And you can see that after she's reading comics or English, any kind of book, she will jot down the words that she didn't understand. She will try to find it in the dictionary, and most of the time she will come to me as a teacher and ask about the usage of the word itself, so that she can use it in her comic. And when I read her comics, I will make some notes if there's some grammatical error or spelling, or the word is wrongly used, or if there's another more suitable word. So I will give her some notes and remarks, and she love it so much because uh, she can improve her own self, and she can improve her writing. And what is interesting is that when she was in year 5 and year 6, her essay is very, how to say that, is very mature, and it's hard for us to find the grammatical error there, and we can understand clearly what is her intention, or what she wants to express, or what she wants to portray in her essay actually.
Okay, moving on to my third question, which is, what do you think is the difference between this special student compared to the others?
I think the most significant difference is that the eagerness and her passion and her interest towards English. because you can see that even though she is very shy and introvert person, but when it comes to English, she will be very extrovert. She will be very outspoken. She will ask you if this word is suitable for this kind of situation. What is the difference between this word and this word? Why can't we use this word in this situation, and when can we use this word? When to use this word? So she will keep on asking this kind of question, and she will apply. She will apply it in her comics, in her writing, and compared to others, she always want to improve herself, but in a very informal way, because she didn't write essay, but she will write it in comic forms, in comic strips, in um, just a picture of a cartoon and some dialogue. So for other students in primary 3, they think English is very alien for them, because we are talking about schools in uh, not in the big city, but we are talking about schools in the village. So the students, they are not very familiar with English. So for primary 3 students, they will have like some kind of a barrier that English is very hard. It is impossible for us to learn English. We cannot write in English. We cannot understand English. But it is very different with this girl, because even though her parents is not from an English background, I mean, like, they didn't speak English at home. They are also like other students, but the passion and her interest towards the language, that makes she can learn English better than others, and she can, I can say, she's very excellent in English.
That's an interesting answer, teacher. So, how do you handle the difference of each students?
Okay, different students, handling different students. Actually, it's very hard. I wouldn't lie. It's very hard to cater all the students in it, because different students have their own strength and weakness. So what I do most of the time is group work, and I will focus more on hands-on activity that have to do with the topic, and of course with English. I will try to lessen the formality. I mean, like, they didn't have to write long essay or reading the whole text, but they have more hands-on activity to do. And yes, I can see there's some difference, because students love to do it, and it will be more interesting if you do it, the group work or the group project, into a competition. They will tend to beat each other, and they will do their best. And one of the other way is that you have to varies your weeks of teaching. Maybe today you are teaching using the book chalk and talk. Maybe tomorrow you will play games with them. Maybe the next day you will implement song. Maybe the next day we will implement something moving, like total physical response. And maybe later you can do group work, and things goes on like that. If you keep on doing the same thing, you will only focus on one kind of students. For example, you do reading, and you have to read from the books and answer. So maybe students that have auditory kind of learning, they tend to be very bored, because they love to listen, they love to sing, and students with that can learn better in visual, they they will be very bored as well, because they want something that is, they can look at the picture, they can draw, they can create. So this kind of thing, you have to bear in mind when you are handling different kinds of learning. So for me, there's only two ways: group work, and one more thing is various ways of teaching. I mean, the method of teaching. It it doesn't mean that every day you have to change the way of teaching, but once in a while you have to put some element that to enlighten, to put more colors in your teaching.
Okay, for my last question, which is the fifth question, do you think that this student influence others to be like her?
Yes, I think she really influenced her friends because um, most of them they they show their interest in English. When she looked at this girl, she always come and ask, and yeah, it's not that you are giving her the attention, but then when she comes to you and asks, and you know her interest, and you really want to help her, sometimes you ask for her, do you have any comics, new comics today? And when the other students look at this, they tend to produce something in English, even though, because they know that even though they didn't do it right, uh, the teachers will comment, will correct it. So there is no, like maybe before they feel like they feel they afraid of making mistakes in English, but when they see this kind of way, oh, the teacher is not angry if we are wrong, so they tend to, they didn't draw. Some of them they cannot draw at all, so they just, sometimes they just write short stories, or they just write simple messages, or they're just scribbling, and they will ask question like, is this correct, sir? Is this right? Can I use this word here? And yeah, kids, they love the competition, but then it's a very healthy competition. And so I think yes, she really influenced her friend not to be like her, but at least to lower down the barrier of learning English and put more interest in learning English. Yes.
Those are wonderful answers that you have given, teacher. And that's all for the interview session. Thanks for lending your time, Teacher Adi.
Eventually.
Okay, so based on the interview, our group have made some research on this girl's learning style, and we find out that this girl's learning style is constructivism. We can relate this theory with this girl because after this girl reads a comic book, she eventually used that prior knowledge to create a new comic book, which is a new knowledge for her. She also has her own understanding when reading the comics. As Teacher Adi says, she learns English by reading comics. She reads by herself and she gains knowledge all by herself. Whenever she has a problem, she will ask Teacher Adi. By this, we can also say that this is a student-centered learning, where Teacher Adi acts as a facilitator and lets the girl to study at her own pace. Okay, so the advantages for constructivism is this method of teaching is effective for students who learn better in a hands-on environment and helps students to better relate the information learned in the classroom to their lives. The constructivism curriculum also caters to the students' prior knowledge, encourages teachers to spend more time on the students' favorite topics, and allows teachers to focus on important and relevant information. Besides that, constructivism also have a few disadvantages, which is the first one is lacks to teachers' preparation for constructivist classroom, and the second one is different students learn at different pace, so it will be hard for teacher to keep track on all students. So to wrap it up, in my point of view, I think that this learning theory is the best for this student, as she benefits a lot from these comic books. She can learn English very well by only reading these comic books. As you can see in the previous interview, this girl, Teacher Adi says that this girl is able to write good and mature essay without having lots of grammatical errors, which is really good for her age. And that's all from this video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you for watching.